Okay, these are your practical list which I wanted to cover. So I have given you that. Which I wanted to cover. I think I'll give it to you in this order. That will be much better for you as well. I'll paste this in the Google chat as well. First, let me admit everyone. Okay, so the next part, what we are going to start now, is yesterday we completed servlet. Today we will important part which we so when we create the application yesterday you like what some of the pointers you saw in servlet. Every time I had to work with servlet. Okay, let's start my screen share. Or screen share is on. So we'll go to our resource directory repository, which was this one, right? So you can find the link to your JSP also here. Just for your reference, I will give you the, see, this is my JSP file. Just quickly download it. So I have my JSP file now. And if you open that JSP file, what do you find? See, so let's proceed and try to understand this. So servlet follows component architecture. It follows the request response model. But the thing is, hold like the data, the content generation and content representation. Everything is marked here itself straight away. Yeah. So the reason being here is like all the things are clubbed together. Like, do you write HTML inside servlet? If you remember, do you write HTML inside the servlet? Yes. Do you remember that you write your HTML, which is written as a part of your servlet? Yes, no, something. Am I audible? Am I audible to all of you? Okay, thank you. So you see what happens here is in your JDBC, sorry, in your servlet, can you do you agree that all the part is combined, like servlet, the data generation, the content generation, and the representation, everything is in a single file, and that can create a lot of problem. Why? Because there is no, like, all the codes go inside either the service method or do get or do post. Yeah, this makes servlets monolithic in nature. Yeah, it's a tough job to write all the code in the same method. Hence, there emerged a need for separation between generation and representation. And using JSP, the separation was found, which was something like this. Now, JSP stands for Java Server Pages. It's a text document made with any name which can contain 100% HTML tags and additional tags to embed Java code. Now, this is like an HTML file which will integrate Java code inside it as and when you want. Yeah, it's a Java technology which allows software developer to dynamically generate HTML, XML, or other types of document in response to the web client request. And this document is stored in web root of your web application. So if you see your application, see, where are your JSP stored? See, this is this folder here inside your SRC. There is a web app directory. This web app is where you will store your JSPs now. Yeah, this is where you will store, not inside web INF, but inside web app is where you will store your JSP. So how does that look like now? Yes. So whenever a request for any JSP for first time it comes in, the JSP engine, which is part of the container, it translates the JSP into a Java file, and then translated Java file is nothing but 100% HTTP servlet. Yeah. So whenever any changes are made in JSP file, JSP engine translates to and recompiles it. So what are the advantages of JSP? It, like, you write it once, run anywhere. It's platform independent and can be written on any platform. High quality tool support. So their explicit goal of JSP is to enable the creation of high quality portable products and reuse of component and tag libraries. So there, this is something not which is the part of our training. Let me see that once. Is it actually the part or not? Because when we are working with JSP, do we have something like, see, we have got syntax, page directive, include directive declaration, implicit object, session tracking in JSP, context, and exception. That's it. So we don't have to go beyond that in this particular part. Do you have any? Do you have any reference guide for this? Like, by any chance, do you get it from college or something? I think I had one. So what do you refer? Like, in case, like, for other subjects also, what do you refer? Can anyone tell me, please? What do you refer usually? For, so all the questions come from there itself, Hari. All the questions come from there. like answers and everything what you were able to write? Okay, yeah. So you can check it out from there. By any chance, if you have a copy of that, please can you help me out with that, so that in case I can also refer that for you. So now going back to JSP, yeah. So separation of dynamic and the static content. So JSP enables the separation of dynamic content from static content that is inserted in the static template, and this make work easier and hence diminishes the dependency for of web designer and web developer and vice versa. So servlet does not have any separation between dynamic and static content, and JSP have a clean separation between them. Servlet then does not have any support for implicit object. JSP has support for implicit object. Servlet support any protocol including HTTP. JSP support only HTTP protocol. So they support FTP and other thing as well. JSP are pure Java program with extension.java. JSPs are document centric, stored with extension.jsp. If any changes are made in .class file, it has to be redeployed. Nowadays it happens by itself. Yeah, and whenever any changes are made to .jsp, JSP engine retranslate and recompile. Hence, no redeployment. So these are certain steps which will happen. So whenever request arise for JSP file, JSP engine will translate your JSP to .java. Basically, it converts it into servlet itself. Then it compiles the file into a servlet file. Load the servlet class, instantiate it using default constructor. Invoke JSP init, that is required that JSP init does not throw any exception, and JSP init returns in the stipulated time. Put the servlet in service. Create request response object. Start the thread. Invoke JSP service and passes the request and response object as arguments. It retrieves the request parameter and perform processing and send responses to the client, and it closes the writer object. And when the container shut down, JSP destroys invoke. So we saw the lifecycle method in servlet, right? They were init service destroy. Here they are going to be JSP init underscore JSP service and JSP destroy. Same thing. So now how we write a comment? A comment in JSP is written like an HTML comment. Only thing is in HTML you write it with exclamation. In JSP, all the JSP tags will start with a greater than symbol and then percentage symbol. So whenever you see percentage, that means the JSP have started now. Yeah, the JSP have started. Now there are different type of tags. The first one what we are going to explore is, see, these are the overall tags which we will have in our syllabus. What are those? Page directive, include directive, expression tag, data declaration, and scriptlet. So JSP tag will always start with this way. See, they are always written between the percentages. Yeah, they're always written inside the percentages. Remember this part. So whenever you start with the JSP, all those tags will be written with percentages. So this tag are always written above the HTML tag, control the translated page and no output here. So when you write a JSP page, how does it look like? So by default, your Java is used here. Add page. See, how do you write? I'll show you a simple page first and then let's start with that. So when you write, a JSP, see, how do you write a JSP? You will right click on web app and it will give you an option. Do you want to write a JSP page? Let me write hello.jsp. Okay, so I have got this hello page. Now the moment you do this, see what is happening. It is writing a JSP comment here. Then it is telling me that at page content type is this and language is this. So this is basically what, and here I can say h1. This is my first JSP. JSP itself stands for page. So I can I'll just say this is my first JSP. And how do I execute it? I would like you all to try this out if possible. Are you, like, anyone is following along and want to try this? This is very easy. You will be able to catch it up on very quick time. So I will see this is executed. I'll just go here on the browser and I will say hello.jsp. So this is my first JSP. This is my first JSP. Okay. How do I do that? I have just written a simple, like I just went to web app, right clicked, and created a new JSP, and this was it. Now, if you see here, I have got what? Percent at page. So let me open our scribbling pad and do it for you. Okay, so you have got your JSP tags. A normal HTML tag looks like this. See. On other hand, your JSP page will look like this. You always start it with percentage, end it with percentage. Okay, remember the first difference. So these two can be combined now. That's what they are saying. That inside your HTML now it can be combined. So first one we have got is what? A page directive. Page directive is written like this. See, for page directive, it always start with a percentage. Start with an at symbol, at, and then you write the keyword page. This is common for writing your. This is very common for writing your page directive. Okay, this is very common for writing page. All the page, anything starting with page directive will always have at the rate, and it will have page. Okay, it will have at symbol and it will have page, and then between this will write key is equal to value pair, key is equal to value pair, and so on. Now the first thing what we are adding up here is language is equal to Java. Now JSP, when JSP was designed at that time, there used to be in multiple different languages. Like HTML internally supports JavaScript. There used to be a language called as VB.NET. So they thought, why not? Like we might create a language which might support another language in near future. Default will be language. Default will be Java, but we will be able to support something else. So at that time, they started showing up this, and this is nothing but like at page, and that language is Java. Now, if you look at this, we have got language is Java. Then, if you want to import any packages, how will you add that? That, for example, I want to import java.util, java.sql, and I want to, let's say, display date. How will I do that? So I will say import page, at page, language is okay. Then I can write multiple import tags, or I can comma separate and write it inside one single tag. So for example, my JSP is planning to use java.util, java.sql. What will I do? I will just make use of import tag here. Yeah, import attribute in my page tag. Then I have got buffer. In my buffer, JSP does not use print writer but uses JSP writer. So buffer can be none, 8 KB, 12 KB as per the requirement. So you are specifying what is the buffer you want to use. Then auto flush. Now see, these things you will have to write it in answers. You get this question a lot. Talk about page directive because there are a lot of attributes available here. Then we have got auto flush. Define whether the buffered output is flushed automatically. Default value is true. If false is passed, an IO exception is generated, which you need to handle them. Next is you have got is error page. Is error page represents whether the current page. Now you can specify error pages in JSP as well. If something goes wrong, it will land up on this error page. So we say whether this defined current page is a JSP page or not. Default is false, but if changes to true, page has access to the implicit exception object. Then we have got error page. It defines the URL to which exception should be sent to. So the target JSP is error page, which should be true. So for example, you want an error to be passed somewhere, you can just make use of error page in this way. Then you have got a session object. Yesterday we accessed the session part, right? So do you want to keep that session value true, false? This is what you will specify from here. So define whether the page will have the implicit session object or not. Is thread safe? Yeah, defines whether the generated servlet need to implement the single threaded model. Default value is true. Next is what you have got an include directive. Now you know that sometime what happens, we write a page. Okay, we can do what? Create a header page. We create a footer, and for every page we create, let's say page 1, page 2, page 3, we just include header and footer. This is what we do. We include the header and footer. So page 1, page 2, this is what we will do is we'll try to include our header and footer here. Okay. Then again, this page one, page two will do what? Will include our header and footer. So I hope this is making sense what exactly I'm trying to talk about. So we have got header, we have got footer, and then there is a page in between. That's what we do here. So I will create this header, I will create this footer, and let's work on this. But how does that work? This time it is an include directive. So we'll have to say at, and this time we'll change the keyword to include. So I will create an HTML page for header. I will create a footer, and then I will use a page to include these two files inside it. So let's say what I do here in my web app, let me create a new file. Let me call it and I can include anything, HTML or JSP. I will show you both. So I'll say header.html. Okay, let's not. So this is my header.html, and inside this header.html, I don't want to pass any JSP tag. I just want to say, see, header will have what? They should not have two bodies, right? Because the actual page will have some body. So I'll say h1, and let's say we'll put it inside center. I guess center tag is deprecated now. Mm, okay, no worries. Let's still try to do that. It's deprecated, not banned. So I'll do what? I'll say I want to write h1. Welcome to code with Z. Okay, welcome to code with Z. So here we write that center tag, and we write it in the header. At the same time, I will create inside my web app, I will create another HTML file, or let's say this time I create a JSP file, because I want to show you both can be used. So I'll say this time footer.jsp. Here too, I don't want anything. I don't want any body or anything. Why? Because the page I'm going to use will have its own body. So I'll just use an HR tag which will create a separation. Then again in the center in that HR, I will write in, let's say, H6. You know, normally they write copyright something, and address something, and phone number something. So this is what I'll write in my footer.js. And when I want to get this thing done, I will say page dot, let me call it as page one.js. Yeah. And inside this page one, what I want to do is, after in my body, at the top, I want to make use of that first one. So what will be that? At include file is what? I will say I want to include header.html. Then I will give a lot of break tags. Then I will write my actual content of this file, which is let's say h3. Let us put our the concept content of login page there. Inside this page one, rather than this, I will just start my login page, and then I will say this is my footer.js. And when I execute my file for page one.jsp, see what will I get. Same way like you do in Sufyan, same way like you do in your HTML, same way you can do. There is no difference at all. So if I say page one.jsp, see, this is how it is looking like. Welcome to code with Z. In fact, just to clear up your doubt, I can go back and bring that login wala JSP, and use that style tag in my current code as well. If I go to page one.jsp, inside head, and if I go back and I try to refresh, see, now because that JSP is acting up, this is the header, this is the footer part, and that's how my integration will work. Yeah, you can also have it in a different file, link it, no problem at all. We have delivered big websites. Like in my earlier days in my career, I have delivered a lot of big websites using JSPs. Used to be very, like, nowadays we don't use that, we React. Okay, on that note, how is your React going? I think you have started with React, right? Was it you? I guess it was you, or second year, I don't remember exactly. Your React part was done, right? Okay. Okay, is this clear what we are doing here right now? What is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot? Spring Boot is based on Spring. Spring Boot is based upon Spring. So I am working on a video right now for the same part. Let's see if it happens quickly. I will release it. There were some issues with me in recent days, because of which I was not able to be quite active. But I will basically just try to cover up. Like, I know I was going to work on sort of things, but didn't get time to do that. Yeah, but let's see how we can do that. Okay, is this part done? Yeah. So got it. How do we include a file? Now this was your include attribute. Then we have got various scripting elements. Now scripting elements are very important. Out of this, the first one and the last one are very important. Second one, we don't use it a lot. JSP expression automatically prints out whatever is being sent between the tags. So expressions are evaluated and output is sent to the browser, and expressions are later resolved and consumed by HTML. So what is the symbol here? Earlier we were using at symbol, at rate, right? Now we'll make use of equal symbol. So we have got this expression. Anything which comes on the right hand side, like this, or like this, can be used for your can be used basically as your expression in JSP. So when you want to use something without expression, see, this is how you'll have to add it, out.println, and then do the new date. But when it comes with expression, you can simply just say percentage at equal to, and then you can specify the new date. Let's say I want to write a JSP which prints today's date. How will I do that? I'll just say new JSP date.jsp. Here, first thing, see, I'll have to import. So I'll say import is equal to java.util.star, and inside body I will say today's date, and I'll do what, percent. So this is how you start a JSP. You say equal, and then you simply just say new date. That's it. And now if you try to execute this, you just say date.jsp. See, it's loading. Today's date is this. If I refresh, only my seconds will change. Yeah. I would like you to try this out, please. If anyone is following along, I would like you to try this so that they understand. You'll right click on your web app, go to JSP and type this date.jsp. Okay. So this is how I'll push this till this point. Yeah. So we are done with the page and include directive for JSP. So the next part is see, this is how we write header, footer, and JSP. Now, see, this is something you will have to just remember for your exams. We don't use this. So when you want to declare an extra function in JSP, which we normally don't do, we make use of what? We make use of exclamation symbol. So you just in JSP, you need to remember all about the exclamation symbols. Okay. So next is I'm going for scriptlets. Any piece of code written inside the scriptlet will directly go inside your service method. So any complex or simple Java code can actually be written. Yeah, it can be written using your simple scriptlet. Scriptlet can be also broken by static content. So what happens here? Whatever is written inside scriptlet is 100% pure Java code. So there is no translation required. So here, let us see what are your practical scenarios needed, and we'll talk about them. let's see what are your practicals requirement. Okay, write a JSP code to accept a number and revert whether the number is prime or not. Let us try to do this particular example with JSP itself. Yeah. So how will we do that? Same way, like we are like accept a number and revert whether. So let me do it with JSP prime number JSP. So here, see what happens. We have got Java, everything is fine. Inside body, what I want to do, I will start a scriptlet. Scriptlet is something like this. Okay, scriptlet is something like this. Now, what I do, how do we accept the request? I'll say int number is equal to request dot get parameter for, let's say I want to give you a number, and this has to be converted into what? Integer dot parse int request dot get parameter of number. And this number, now I have to check whether this number is prime or not. So how will I do that? uh, Forgot the prime number logic. Okay, the number is, in fact I also don't remember. Let us see where that JS, it's like should not be divisible. It should only be divisible by the same number and one, right? That's how it works. So we have prime number JSPC here available in web app. Yeah, prime number JSP. What does it say? Take the number. Check the boolean flag is false. If number I is 2 and equal to less than number, then we say number mod is true, and then we break the flag. So I will take this particular part, this much part first. Then I'll show you how do we write. So this is basically nothing but the logic for prime number. So I already have this number, and then I say my boolean flag is false. So if I is equal to 2, I is less than number divided by 2, I plus plus. So number mod I is equal to 0, flag is true, and I break. So what do I do? If flag is not true, yeah, after this point, if not of flag, so that means the number is not prime. So at this point, you know what I can do is I can break my scriptlet. Now this is wonderful. This is like a beauty in JSP what they have given. You can break the scriptlet and include the HTML here. See, you keep it in another scriptlet, and between these scriptlet tags, you can just simply write h1. Let's say number. What is that number? Percentage equal to your number is not. Why is this? We started the scriptlet here. We ended the scriptlet here. Started on the scriptlet, ended on the scriptlet. Okay, if this flag is false, that means nothing has happened. Division has not happened. So this is a that number is a prime number. And in the else block, it will become what? So after that, I will continue to the else. Inside this else, I will again do what? End the previous scriptlet and put the next code in the new scriptlet. And here, I will just simply write again h1, and I can copy the same thing, that number is not a prime number. Yeah, let us give it a minute to be resolved. I think everything is script. I have added open the script here, ended. Now after the script, I have integrated the Java code. Here it is also in the Java code. Not a prime number, not a prime number. Why is this not picking up H1 again? Yep, this is how I have written. You know what? Blade template was actually inspired from JSP Sufyan. It is because JSP came way before that Blade template. Yeah, I agree what you're saying. It's like Blade template. Yes. Or if you're from .NET, if you know .NET a bit, you will also understand that these things are also derived from. Have you heard about Blazor? Okay, so this is resolved now, and then see, I don't even need to restart; it will automatically pick it up. So if I say prime hyphen number dot JS, and I have to pass question mark, number is equal to, let's say, 12. Now 12 is not a prime number, but 13 should be a prime number. Yeah. See what I've done? I'll just keep the screen open for a minute. Let's see what we have done here so that you understand how I have broken the scriptlets. Okay, I hope this is clear for everyone. I will push this to the repository. Write a JSP program to accept a string and determine whether the string's length is greater than 6 or not. And now at this point, I would also like you to focus on one part. See, there are something called as explicit objects in JSP. Yeah, there are something called as explicit objects of JSP. And what are those explicit objects and what are the scopes? So there are scope of an object, how long the object will be available, and the form on which JSP object will be available. So here we have got a request scope, session scope, page scope, and application scope. The request scope indicates that object is bound to servlet request object and it will be only available till the request object is available. Yeah. Then we have got, just a minute. Okay, so we have got various scopes here. We have got request scope, and this object is distinct for every client because that object will be available. Then we have got session scope. This will be connected to the session object. Yeah, so it indicates the object is bound to the HTTP session, and object is session object can be accessed using get value on implicit session, and object in this scope helps in session binding, and scope of this object is available till the client session is valid. Page scope determines your own current page right now, whatever JSP page you are on. So object in this page scope can be accessed using get attribute, and object in page scope are created and destroyed after each client request to the page. Yeah, and then we have got application scope. Application scope indicate object is bound to servlet context. Yeah, so object in application scope can be accessed using get attribute. And this way, see, this is a very last question but important question in JSP. What is that? Implicit objects. Now you see, I'll tell you one thing here. What is the difference do you find here? Here I am using request.get parameter. Is this request object declared anywhere? Is this request object declared anywhere? Have I declared this request object anywhere? Anyone? See, this is not declared anywhere, but you must see that when I go to the Java code, any servlet. See, this request object is declared using HTTP servlet request, and that is happening because that request object is available. So what you need to do now is understand that there are certain implicit objects which are available. There are 9 objects. Yeah. See, we have got request, response, out, session, application. Now, when you use these objects, they will be available to you straight away. You don't have to declare these objects. These are part of JSP. Config, page context, and exception. Now, request object obviously represent what HTTP request, and its the scope is what request. Then you have got response object, which represents your response, but exact name. You cannot change the name here. Out object is for writing the output the way we used in. That was the reason I always used to rename request and response in your servlet as well. Then session object will also be used exactly like the session. Then we have got the application object, which will be used for applications for servlet config. Then we have got the config object, which is used for taking care of the servlet config. Page object refers to itself. Page context is referring to the servlet context page exception. An exception object is available in the error page where you will be able to get that exception. So how will I? So this is how your expression will be looking like. So how will we write the another code now? Another code what we have right now in our application is what write a JSP to determine whether the string length is greater than 6 or not. How can I do that? So I can simply write my JSP. I will say this is my JSP page, length JSP file. Here what I do, in my length JSP file, I will start with my scriptlet first. Then I say string value is request dot get parameter of value, and then I say if value dot length is greater than or equal to 6, I can simply just break my scriptlet here. See, I will just simply break my scriptlet here, and between this scriptlet it takes a minute to recognize data. So you need to understand that part as well. It will take a minute to recognize that the scriptlet has been broken. And now what we'll do is we'll simply say h3 length of string is greater than 6 is in equals or greater than 6, and length of string, and here I can also include that string. So how can I do that? Using the expression equivalent, which is what? Value in this case. And then based on this I will write my else block, and in my else block again I'll do what? I will, this is lesser than, is equals or greater than, is, here I can just say it is lesser than 6. And then I go to what, which is what, length servlet, length.jsp, question mark value is equal to, if I pass my own name, see, length of string Jartab is equal or greater than 6, but if I pass Tom, it will say Tom is lesser than 6. So this is how your string, basically your JSP string will be detected and understood. Okay. Now what I want you to do is, yeah, we'll write one more servlet, write a JSP program which redirects to what? Google.com. Can anyone help me out with this? If I give you 5 minutes, will you be able to write it based upon what we did yesterday? Will you be able to write it based upon what we did yesterday? Anyone? If I give you 5 minutes, will you be able to show me, help me out with the code, how we can write this? It's very simple. It's basically a one line JSP. Okay. Anyone want to give this a try? Okay, so I just want to show you how it can be done. Simple. If anyone is still trying, it's fine. Or else I'll do what? Just add a new JSP. Let me call it as redirection. And see, when you deal with this redirection, it's quite simple. You just go to your scriptlet tag and you'll type one single line. Like whenever this is response dot send redirect and http colon slash slash www.google.com. That's it. So the moment you try to go to this redirection page, see, I say redirection.jsp. It should take me to google.com. Simple as that. So what will I what will I do? As I'll quickly just commit this JSP. Maximum practicals we have done of JSP. This is the list I want to cover in my JSP part. Where is that list? Okay, I will also push this into the repo. So where do I add it? Inside resources, I am adding a new file, practical list.txt. Okay, and I am giving you the list of practical which we want to do. Okay, and I will commit this so you will have this reference. Push this. Okay, so if you can just add your roll numbers in the chat would be great before we wrap up the session. Okay, okay, thank you so much. And now Arun sir will let you know when the next session of mine will be. Thank you.